And we're back. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Final Fantasy Tactics Retrospective. I'm your host, Brian. How's everybody doing? We got a full panel lined up for you tonight. Let's let them introduce themselves. How are you, panel? We're back. Good evening, everybody.
Everybody, Catholic Lancer here.
Final Fantasy Tactics
Doing quite well.
Retrospective. I'm your host, Brian. How's everybody doing?
Martel.
We got a full panel lined up for you tonight. And of course it sounds like the panel's a little low volume again. One second. Let's figure this out. Well, this might be something that just clears itself up again on its own. We'll see.
Gremlins.
Yep, as usual.
Thank you, all buggers.
Well, UAA have been coming in particularly low, like both nights so far. I think it might be on your end. Well, do your best, because we do love to hear from you. Okay, well, we'll wait and see what happens. And I've got the team chat cranked up to 100 in Elgato sound capture. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you folks in the Discord. There you are. Let's see what chat's saying. Wait, none of the guests are audible. Yes, hello. Simon Hogwood, Mad Matt, Raul Nyanzi. Raul congratulating me on the release of the Combat Frame X8 RPG. Thank you, Raul. Glad everybody could be here tonight. Go ahead and keep talking, panel. If you don't talk, I can't adjust your levels. Also, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I've got a question. Specifically, you, Brian, especially dealing with writing.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone knows. Well, everyone knows that a certain show came out today. Interesting. What I found interesting was that none of the buzz was for the show. All the buzz was for this character post like King Kong. This character swirled like El Mariachi. This character, is always in relationship to other works. Now, knowing these directors, those resonances, references, and allusions were deliberate. They weren't accidental. So I was just wondering, as a writer, how do you manage allusion and resonance?
I don't know what you're talking about. Like I don't get the reference.
Yeah. Star Wars.
Oh,
But,
okay.
no, but I mean, as far as allusion and resonance, like, a lot of people like to quote Shakespeare or a particular tendency I've noticed is if you throw somebody in a trash compactor, guess what you're referencing. So I was just wondering, how do you as a writer approach when you want to do allusions to other works, or if you want to do something that echoes, that echoes something, another work. you allusions to other works, or if you want, that echoes something about that.
Okay, I'll get to that in a second. I'm still grappling with the audio here, as is tradition.
Okay.
Okay, people are saying the voices are too loud now. Yeah, now. If I mute the stream on YouTube, I can't hear anything. Okay, I'll get to that. But we do seem to be making progress.
I think we're still hearing some buzzing in the background here too.
And a faint echo. Okay, that's interesting. So let me try something. Echo. Okay, that's interesting. So let me try something. Okay, I think that's a little better. Doing some stuff in my sound mixer. Echo, okay, that's interesting.
You just keep talking so you can get feedback on the voices.
Let me try something. Yeah, and you guys are sounding better, like through my speakers at least. Doing some
Okay, that's good to hear.
Oh, the buzzing almost cut out. Cool. But yeah, while Brian's, I guess while Brian's working on the sound, if anyone else had any ideas about that, because it's not just a writing thing. I know it's an artistic art references art. So if y'all had any questions on how to deal with stealing from basically referring to this work.
From the writing side of things, the advice I've heard, which the more I've read, I think I agree with, is generally it's a bad idea, because to the audience it will not seem as clever as you think it sounds as you're writing it in there. And I've noticed that in books that I've otherwise enjoyed, they've thrown references and allusions into things, and it kind of just made me cringe briefly and then move on.
Yeah. I would say that in general, unless you're very good at it or it's very subtle, they're to be avoided, because it's just jarring no matter which work. Like, if it's a direct quote from something just stuck in there, it kind of jolts you out of the I'm reading an account of somewhere else frame of mind and into I'm looking at words on the screen frame of mind.
Okay.
Page, what have you.
It throws you off the page, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it takes you out of the world that you're in and reminds you that you're just reading a book.
I think I may have missed part of the question. Could you just give me a quick recap on what we're talking about with referencing?
In fiction or in any art, music, writing, painting, etc., etc., if you're going to structure a paragraph or a line of music, or pose a particular, a particular subject in a certain way to allude to, reference, or resonate with another piece of work.
Well, I would argue that's less reference and more allusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want an example of something I thought was done really well, so in well, shoot, actually, does anyone in chat care about mild spoilers for Godzilla vs. Kong?
Go ahead.
No,
I don't.
Fine.
Alright, so in Godzilla vs. Kong, the explanation for Mechagodzilla in that film is that they're basically using one of the skulls of King Ghidorah as a like neural interface for the pilot to the mech, and then eventually when the pilot's taken out of the picture, the spirit of Ghidorah possesses Mechagodzilla via that link and wreaks havoc, which, by my reading, manages to reference every single previous Mechagodzilla origin story in the series, but in a way that is unique to that film, without directly copying any of the previous ones.
Okay, I think
So
we
in the
fixed the
Showa
audio.
era, the Showa era is the one that's the most of a reach, but I count it because it just makes me happy that it pulls from every era. But in the Showa era, when the Okinawan priestess has the prophetic vision of Mechagodzilla's arrival, just because I guess they were low on money, they used stock footage of King Ghidorah for her vision, even though it's Mechagodzilla that shows up. Then in the Heisei series, Mechagodzilla is built by humans out of the leftover remains of Mecha King Ghidorah. So you've got the King Ghidorah reference there. And then in the Millennium series, Mechagodzilla is built using the skeleton of the 1954 Godzilla, whose spirit then possesses it and sends it on a rampage. And so I was really impressed that the Godzilla vs. Kong writers were able to draw from elements from each of those past explanations to come up with their own take on Mechagodzilla.
So. Alright, well I think we
Better,
fixed
at least for me.
the audio
I guess
issues.
from the comic book perspective,
Am I coming through?
I'm always disappointed when I'm seeing a writer or an artist trying to recreate or make a similar event. It's usually coming out very clunky. when
Okay,
they're
now the
trying to
buzz
parallel-
has
parallel
returned.
the story. And, well, here's my take on it. Well, I don't really care about your take. It's been done once already. But if you've got a story that
Yeah, the buzz just seems to be
is
coming and going on its
similar
own.
or captures a few of those threads, and you can build a new story but still give the reader an idea. Oh yeah, this feels like a little bit like this, or it's alluding back to this.
I'm gonna try backing out of the
Um,
Discord and
I
going
think
back
it's a
in.
much more solid story. Otherwise, it just
Oh,
feels
but now
like,
it's gone.
well, I'm going to take this story and I'm going to do it better, and it usually falls flat on its face.
Yeah. And like I was saying, illusion versus reference. Like
Right.
all of that stuff is illusion. Something like I don't know, construct additional pylons. That's just a reference. Everyone knows exactly what you're referencing, or they don't, and it's even more clunky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the failure is the worst of it. It's like, well, I'm gonna do this neat trick, this in joke. Well, what if people don't get the in joke? In some cases, all right, it slides by. But if it's a kind of integral thing to your story, you've really messed up.
Yeah. And even if it's just a brief humorous reference, these days I probably just got burned out on it by Ready Player One, because that was nothing but reference.
Yeah.
And most of them had no bearing on the plot at all. They were just, hey, do you remember this intellectual property?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I liked how in Soda Pop Soldier, because he was not allowed or chose not to directly reference everything by name, he had to create his own versions of things. So you're like, okay, this is basically Diablo, but he's not allowed to call it that, and so you're able to appreciate it as the game it is within the world, even if it's clearly supposed to be Diablo.
By the way, am I coming through at all? Hello.
Actually, if I could address something in chat real quick. Matthew Martin, good name, says, in other news, the Tolkien situation might actually be getting worse. And not to be snarky or catty, but the Tolkien situation is just fine. The Tolkien situation has not developed at all since Christopher Tolkien's death.
And that would be a no to Brian.
That would be what?
Brian has been.
Oh,
talking the
shoot.
whole time.
Sorry, man, I can't hear you.
Testing. Check. That's weird.
But yeah, the Tolkien situation does not exist at all.
Right. Grand zero. Just ignore
It's
it.
like my take on Warhammer 40k is every bit of lore that I don't like is chaos propaganda.
Mhm.
My take on Tolkien is everything I don't like does not exist.
Right. It's all curated for me too. It just
Yeah.
doesn't. It's just not there.
The last
Oh, jeez. I do not need this. Alright.
no redeeming artistic value in it. I can tell you that much.
Okay, how about now?
And
Am I coming through now?
yeah,
There's no reason to talk about it.
Apparently not.
Yep.
Let's test Discord again. Yeah, it's coming through. Ha. Testing.
I will say,
Hello.
in the visual arts world,
Anybody hear me now?
oh, yep, you're coming through.
Okay, I'm back
you're
now.
back, but so's the buzz.
Wonderful. So that could be a short in my USB port.
Uh-oh.
Having technical issues again, I see.
Kind of a geek grab tradition, sad to say.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That could just be me.
Well, we have interesting conversations while we're waiting. So
Okay, I'm gonna try switching headphones. You guys carry on.
very well.
Saw the latest Nintendo Direct.
As we were saying, like, best thing in this case is like a lot of the Marvel movies.
Yep.
Just,
I'm sorry, I couldn't catch any of that.
getting game audio coming through. I was just saying that the Tolkien situation is like a lot of the Marvel TV and even some of the DC stuff. Just ignore it. It's designed to ramp you up, get you upset, get you talking about it. And that's the goal. So why bother talking about it if you're really just hoping that cadre of people, destroy property?
Yeah. It's like that review, I think it was Slavoj Zizek wrote of the new Matrix film. Just the final line. Despite its occasional brilliance, it is clear that the new Matrix film is not worth seeing, which is why I wrote this review without seeing it.
Bold move.
Wow.
Yeah, that seems really loose.
As someone who saw it, yeah, he was not wrong. You could have made that conclusion, been good, had a good day.
You don't have to watch the monkey playing with dynamite play out to be able to judge it's going to be a bad idea. Especially like I will
Mic check. Testing. Testing.
Spaceman movie releasing later this year.
Okay,
They
can you hear me now?
basically have Zagox without claws
We can hear you,
as their
Brian.
robots. And so I see that and I'm like, oh, that's a cool little visual Gundam reference. But it's not immersion breaking for those who don't know what they're looking at.
Right. I think one of the tricks they're try. In most cases, you're not going to try.
Testing.
I'm a smart boy. Look, I've done a smart boy thing and plug something in there that you'll recognize.
Know what they're looking at.
I think the people who are artists, and I think one of the tricks to give a shout out, if you want to call it that.
Sorry to interrupt, but am I coming through now? Testing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm a
the
smart
buzz
boy.
is gone on our end at least.
Okay, it was the headphones then.
That you'll recognize.
Know what they're looking at.
People who
Not getting any echo either.
I think one of the tricks to give
Well,
a shout out,
that's that.
if you want to call it that.
Sorry to interrupt, but am I coming through now? Testing.
Yes.
Yes, the buzz is gone on our end at least.
Okay, it was the headphones then.
All right, yeah. Looks like no one in
what
chat
they're
saying
looking at.
anything. So yeah,
Not
we
getting any
are
echo either.
back in business, ladies. and
Okay,
gentlemen.
carry on. I'm gonna get into the game. Sorry to interrupt, but am I coming through now?
So we were talking some about Tolkien.
Well, we were for a minute. What we're talking about now is we're back to illusion again. So, I think where it can be successful is if that creator is trying to figure out what's best for the reader, the viewer, and make sure that they're able to understand the illusion or the joke or whatever it happens to be. If you're writing it and you're chuckling over it, make sure you get a couple of beta readers or a couple of beta readers in there to make sure they understand it and get the same kind of reaction. Otherwise, you may be doing it for yourself, and those don't always work well.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're getting back into the game. Last time we learned that Princess Ophelia is not really Princess Ophelia. She's an imposter placed on the throne by a group of senators who had planned to take control of the throne, and they were banking their whole plot on the queen not having another son, but she just did. So now a war is breaking out over who will be the regent to the infant king, and Cardinal Dracula and Temple Knight Vormov and Delita are now holding Ophelia hostage, and Reinhard is just trying to play Mr. Hero. I think that's everything.
The reliable I am a hero going to mess up everyone's carefully and laid plans.
Yep, but most importantly, we got Agrius back in the party.
Oh, alright.
Yep, Miss Friendly Fire 2022. So I actually might level her up a bit here.
Not as much friendly fire as a calculator.
No, but it's actually close.
I love the term friendly fire because it's a contradiction in terms.
Yeah, but for a soldier, it fits the humor.
Look, sometimes the only way to save you is to destroy you.
Got some
Not that village
Chat.
thing again.
got some chat in the chat about Ascendant. Macris released a new RPG.
Oh, is that superhero one that he had been developing?
Looks like
It is. It's been out for a little while. It took a long time to get the hardcovers shipped. But the PDF has been out for quite some time.
I'll have to give that a look because I very much like that.
Yeah,
Oh, is that
it looks like it's a very solid game. It's very much based on Phaser Rip. So if you played Marvel superheroes, you will probably be very familiar with what's going on in the game.
I'm sorry, real quick. Is that an evil penguin? A puffin?
It's more like an albatross, I think.
Evil Penguin. That Evil Penguin. That's the Disgaea series. Not.
Dude!
He can really be a hero.
Haha, Fiona Wolf is joining the chat.
Hey, Fiona Wolf.
Speaking of references,
But yeah, and by the way, I co-sign the other panelist's answer to your question, Pulp Archivist. Gotta learn to manage your influences.
So, would we be correct in saying that it's easier to do illusion or even just influence in a visual medium than a literary one?
I don't know if I would say that necessarily. I mean, okay, in a movie or video game, you can do things like have a poster for another movie, or have a character wearing like a lapel pin with a superhero symbol on it, right? You could do like these sight gags. But in a novel, you can quote dialogue from other sources. You can also, well, I mean, you can do the same things. It's just going to take more words to describe it, right? Like the 1,000 words to picture ratio. So, go ahead.
I was thinking stuff like poses or visual design. Like CL was talking about whatever Spaceman movie he was referencing. Robots look like one of the Gundam designs, I guess. Like
They even
similar
had-
enough. Good.
They even had a lone red one standing at the end of the column.
There's a can of Coke in Ethereal. If you look really
But
close, it's...
I would agree. It's easier to do visual because you can get incredibly abstract with it. Like I've said, I've ripped off compositions that I found from paintings that ripped off compositions from even older works. Like I had one of a dog receiving last rites as he lies wounded on the battlefield, which I ripped off from a painting of I believe a British general surrendering to George Washington that was in a museum, and that artist had himself ripped off an even older work called The Dying Gaul.
oh, is that that statue?
Yeah,
S-
that's
The statue. There's a statue that they dug out of a bog that had a Gaul that was, I think it was strangled, had a head wound. It was very ritualistic. So
different statue.
okay.
This one is probably one of the greatest statues ever sculpted, which is saying something. I'll post it in the chat.
I need to dive into chat for a second. Rawl says, "This eternal hellfire brought to you by Coca-Cola."
It is. It really is.
But that's just one example of like how abstract you can get with visual reference, where it's not jarring to someone who's not aware of what it is, and for someone who is aware of what it is, it's probably less jarring and more just like, oh cool, they've studied the same art history I have.
Right. You've got opportunities for different levels of reveal without throwing you off the screen.
Here's a more modern example. How many? You remember the famous scene in Akira, where kind of does slides on the bike, right? That kind of like like that really cool sideways, like grinding halt slide on the
Yeah.
motorcycle.
Yeah,
How many times have you seen that being referenced in cartoons and anime nowadays?
constantly.
There's a whole super cut of it on YouTube that also serves as a chronicle of the decline in animation quality.
Doesn't it? I've seen the one you're talking about. 30 years of the Akira slide and animation.
Another one that's kind of interesting is, and anime related, is how many yellow car chase scenes have you seen?
Referencing
Yellow
Lupin?
car chase scenes?
Yeah, where it's like a yellow bug or something like that. And
Like
it-
as a reference to Lupin?
exactly.
Mm. You know
So
what?
that's-
I
that's-
haven't
that's
paid
about-
attention to that. I'd have to think about that in all honesty.
Is that always the lead car, or is it the chase car?
It's the escaping car.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's Lupin, that's gonna be the one that's being chased. I haven't
Lupin
noticed
drives
that.
a Fiat,
Yeah,
by the way.
a lot of even American, a lot of even American visuals reference the Castle Cagliostro scene.
Hmm.
Let's see. Ah, here's another one. How many Oh, that book cover, yeah, that's exactly Akira. That is damn near almost a kit bash.
You want to know what's interesting about that series? It also steals from Ghost in the Shell. The Section 9 is literally used by the equivalent. See, there's different characters, and there's not like a major reference or even a Bato reference, but they literally use the two authors' Section 9 as the secret agency the main character falls into, and you can see Ghost in the Shell references all over.
Wear your references on your sleeve, I suppose.
Yeah, no, they hop from Blade Runner in one moment to Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex the next moment, and tons of gratuitous violence between each moments.
Okay, but here's something interesting. You said Blade Runner, you said Ghost in the Shell. That's a lot of like visual stuff, but doesn't seem like there's a lot of literary inspiration. But you see that? It's interesting. Maybe it's just me, and I'm rather guilty in falling in the same trap, and I'm trying to fix that by reading more. Have you noticed that it seems to be for like a lot of, especially indie stuff coming out, right? Whenever people say, oh, it's like this mixed with this, or that plus that, it's always some sort of visual medium, but almost never really a literary.
I'm not
What
sure.
are-
I've seen a lot of people try to do Battlefield Earth meets John Scalzi or something like that.
That sounds horrific.
The Battlefield Earth, I think, is the first thing that came to my mind, but it's, you know, a lot of the if you like Scalzi and you like this person, you like this person, a lot of hangers on trying to do marketing that way.
Speaking of Scalzi, have you guys seen the
I just
article going
remember-
around
I think it was Brian who
about how
mentioned
little
it.
those guys sell? Like, apparently someone leaked internal Nielsen. Well, apparently someone did. Someone leaked internal Nielsen book
Yeah,
scan numbers that.
Book scan numbers.
Yeah. Go ahead if you're familiar with that. Take it from here.
Well, it's on Declan Finn's site. Pretty much an expose of some of the top sellers from SFWA and how little they're actually selling.
Top seller is relative, I suppose, huh?
Well,
What?
the thing is, it's the people who should be their top sellers. It's the people who get the press, and just showing how little actually they're moving as far as paperwork. One of the things that the individual who released the figures was saying too, because there was some back and forth about how accurate Bookscan is since this is the lumber companies we're talking about, you can assume that the electronic sales are not greater than the sales listed, because Bookscan is the physical copies. So even if you double or let's pretend we triple it and add in audiobooks, these numbers are not very good at all.
Yeah, it's abysmal. John Scalzi was the heaviest hitter on that list, but there are indie people who blow John Scalzi out of the water into orbit, and it's incredible to see. I mean, John Scalzi, he always brags about, what was it, that 3.5 million advance he got from 4 books to make a 13-book deal. And what, 10 years he's delivered less than half of that, and he's not making like 1/20th of what he needs to make back that advance on any of his books.
Yeah, but tour contracts at that time looked like they were more quid pro quo deals than they were necessarily made on good bets for returns.
Yeah, it
was-
didn't look like a business thing for sure. And if it was, then whoever made that needs to be fired because they failed miserably.
We've
But we
had
know
this
that's not the
conversation in the past about how publishers don't necessarily find good authors, they make popular authors.
Except they don't have that power now anymore either, as
Right,
evidenced by sale numbers.
They didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
The main problem with traditional publishing and all the rest is that they actually buy their own propaganda. They actually think they're as important as they think they are.
Yeah. That's rule number 1 of entertainment or in the business. Never buy your own hype, huh?
I want to cut in just for a second in regard to a link I posted. There's, and I'm going to butcher it since I don't speak French, Arsène Lupin, Gentleman Thief, which is a reprinting and Kickstarter of the original stories with some new artwork. So I think that might be worth checking out. There's only about 48 hours left on the Kickstarter.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
If you're a
Arsène
Lupin fan,
Lupin.
you might want to take a look at it.
I know we talked about
Here's a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just real quick, I wonder, in the illustration here on the Kickstarter, is the old-timey motor car yellow because it was yellow in the anime, or was it yellow in the anime because it was also yellow in the original story?
I think the second one.
Miyazaki loved to reference the original. For those not familiar with Lupin the Third, Arsène Lupin in Japan was the grandson of the French Lupin, and French Lupin's really kind of gets into a lot of influence on the Shadow and pulp heroes and comic books that way, as being one of the first really big anti-heroes in mystery. But so Miyazaki was always kind of referencing back to the originals. So Cagliostro, for instance, nice sounding name for a castle, huh? Well, it's also the original Lupin's arch nemesis. So I think it was the Duchess of Cagliostro. I'd have to double check her actual rank.
Yeah.
But
For viewers unaware, the original Arsène Lupin is over 100 years old at this point. It came about at like the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah, 1907,
so
1907 is what the Kickstarter says.
yeah, 1907 around there. So when we're talking like original, like this predates Solomon Kane. Even this is like one of the original kind of like adventure stories of like the classical gentleman thief with a top hat and a cane.
Oh,
absolutely!
I believe
incredible.
that didn't the creator of Arsène Lupin have a story involving Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah,
And there was
yes.
a dispute over intellectual property because of that.
Which is kind of amusing because the anime couldn't be called Lupin the Third in French, so he's known as Edgar. Because
Yeah,
of a similar thing.
didn't Monkey Punch literally just like the character of Arsène Lupin and decided I'm gonna make a character that's his grandson, without quite going through the process? So there was a lot of copyright disputes until it became public domain, right? Depending on what country you saw it in.
There was a lot of disputes. I sadly haven't looked into that particular how they were resolved, but yeah.
Recently, I saw the Arsene Lupin III 3D animated film in theaters sometime
Any good?
last year. It was enjoyable. It was a lot of fun. Very pulpy adventure, like a classical heist film. It was great. Good fun. They translated the style well into 3D. I was impressed.
See, this, looking at some of the other illustrations on this page, this is what I'm talking about with visual illusions, like this profile illustration of the character running. Like, if you've seen a little bit of the anime, it looks like how some of the character animations for running are done in the anime. But if you haven't, it still just looks like a dude running that's well illustrated.
The head and the implied shadows kind of like the third's mutton chops. So it wouldn't surprise me if this has if this particular artist did the illusion, but did illusions to the anime.
Those who wish to bundle their order with additional related titles can add them to any pledge. For example, fans may also be interested in the brand new upcoming Lupin III 50th anniversary art book, celebrating 5 decades of the popular anime character Lupin III, created by Monkey Punch. I might... $40, you know, I might do that. Well, thank you for this link. I think I'm gonna find me some new, books for my collection.
This hardcover looks gorgeous.
It does. This is a proper hardcover.
Both of them do.
Matthew Martin. The Kickstarter apparently includes Lupin's first encounter with Herlock Sholmes.
Yep.
Nicely played. Maybe the stream will get some Kickstarter folks purchasing stuff.
Oof, lost a calculator.
Ooh. Is it dead or
Nah, he's just sleepy.
just downed?
Down but not out.
Okay. I noticed that you got a flare off earlier in battle that looked like it hit all of the enemies and none of your guys.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty okay here. Now just turn the tables again by taking out that
Hey,
goblin.
y'all, especially you, Ryan. Did you see on the latest Nintendo Direct they're doing a remaster of Chrono Cross?
Nope.
Were you interested in Chrono Cross at all, or am I
Nope.
misremembering? Oh, no? Oh, well. For anyone who's interested in it, I suppose they'll be happy, but I suppose I shouldn't have assumed that you're into all old JRPGs.
It's not old.
Mea culpa.
It's not even 16-bit, dude. What are you talking about, millennial?
Oh.
And yes, I realize I'm playing a 32-bit game, but it
suppose
has...
old is
This
too.
game has 2D sprites. Okay. Yeah, I like tried playing Chrono Cross for like 5 minutes. I was like, nah, it looks like garbage. Pass. Anyway, don't let me rain on your parade.
Oh, the PS1. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's something that I'm interested in also. The Front Mission remake from Square Enix coming on Nintendo Switch. With the promise of Front Mission 2 also being remade. That I am very interested in.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Mecha RPG, tactical game. Yeah.
And he's
I'm in.
back. Can't keep a good calculator down. He is an extreme mathlete. He's a math magician. He's good.
As opposed to the mythomagician.
That's right. Thank you for bailing me out. Man, that night is slippery.
I can't believe the Olympics are going on right now and like no one cares.
Oh, right.
That
forgot
that is the good. This what I'm saying right now is like no one wants to care. every time they see it, it's laughing at it only, like laughing at it in a post-apocalyptic, literally a ski jump, literally nuclear cooling towers in the background.
Whole plants, actually.
Oh yeah.
But no, the only thing I really saw about that was a traitor fell flat in the face twice, came in dead last, right in the middle of the arena, and now everyone's dead.
Oh yeah, if that's like not karmic, like I'm going, I don't like the great American Empire, but it is ironic the person who wanted to be loyal to China #1 literally is doing terrible.
No sympathy for traitors. Apparently,
Oh,
she
you
only,
mean that girl from California who what did he call it? Disowned her U.S. citizenship to play for China.
renounced.
Oh, renounced.
She renounced her U.S.
That's right.
citizenship.
Renounced her
Apparently,
citizenship.
Someone was saying that they probably only let her on the team because her dad is some sort of big shot researcher, which makes it even more funny if that's the case.
I mean, I was wondering if I should feel sorry for her, but then again, she is, as they say in Spanish, vende patria, so no.
Vende?
Vende patria, the seller of the homeland. That's how they say traitor in Spanish.
Poetic.
I find it a very good expression that I've been using. So, yes.
Other humorous, karmic. You see the thing about the comedian who blasphemed God and then immediately fainted?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Immediately
the
what?
video is interesting.
The video is hilarious.
Wait, what's this? You're gonna have to bring me up to speed, gentlemen.
Yeah, but people laughed. Sorry, go
some comedian. Yeah, I think they thought that it was part of a bit, but
They did.
on the video, there's some comedian who said, "I'm vaxxed, double vaxxed, boosted, have the flu shot, the shingle shot. I haven't gotten COVID, and Jesus loves me the most." And then 5 seconds later, she fell over backwards, smacked her head on the floor, and everyone laughed.
And came in with a skull fracture too.
Like, did the audience think that she was doing a bit?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, but she actually fell. Oh.
You can
she
hear
fell
her
over
head.
so hard she fractured her skull.
Yeah, you can hear the dropped watermelon sound of her head.
Oh, that video. Okay, I watched the first 5 seconds, but as soon as she said I'm vaxxed, double vaxxed, I just turned it off because I thought it was just gonna be another painfully unfunny Hannah Gadsby as Siri.
He might miss the punchline.
I missed the best part. Oh wow.
Oh, and she's terminally
The joke
unfunny.
itself was
Well,
Yeah.
that's. I could have told you that.
the entire joke. Even from a humor perspective, what's the punchline?
It's not.
It doesn't need a punchline. They don't do punchlines because they don't do funny. They just do screeds and sermons.
It's signal good. Good is good. I am good. There. End of sermon.
Well, and of course, one thing you left out was...
that's the thing. A lot of...
I was going to say...
Trained SEAL audience.
Well, one thing that was left out was she mentioned, I've still got my period because... And once again, fulfilling the stereotype that is the only thing female comedians think is funny.
Oh no.
You know, I actually saw an interesting theory about that. The reason why we don't find women funny is because their humor is designed for either gossiping around the village well or making kids laugh.
Yep.
The other things I've seen is it's either just sexual.
I still
Gossip
have a
around the village
childlike
well.
sense.
Hang on, Crusader.
I still have a childlike sense of humor and. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Pulp. Pulp Archivist.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah. Thing about this is alluded to this earlier sermon. I don't know. For the last 15 years, all stand-up comedy's been is a sermon, just a secular sermon. same beats, switch up the topics, and you know, it could be very well, be like a mega church pastor doing his sermon, except it's completely secular and oftentimes completely at odds with you know, completely at odds with what a real sermon would have. Anyways, I'm off my soapbox.
Okay. All right, Crusader Sarah's in
I guess I gotta go. I'll be back in about an hour or so.
All right.
All right, take care.
Apologies for interrupting.
It's
But
okay.
actually, I'm curious now. Where did that start? This current malaise of comedy, where the thing that's supposed to make us laugh is just dreadfully, like, painful to listen to now.
Angry Carlin, maybe?
George Carlin.
I was thinking that myself, in all honesty, because as a youngster, as one of those edgy atheist kids, I found George Carlin funny. But looking back at it now, at least his older stuff, right? Looking back at it now, I'm just like, wow, this guy is just... If George Carlin was still alive today, he would be all in favor of lockdowns. Let's make no bones about that.
Yeah, it's pretty much when he changed his character from the hippy dippy weatherman, or the guy that's just doing words, amongst other things, in the '90s to be the angry old man. That's probably when things switched.
Yeah,
Well, I would say that comedy's been a left-wing segment for since the 70s, really, if not further back. Like, Jay Leno, Larry King, all those guys. But the difference is that in the last decade and a half, it stopped being funny, so we've noticed.
That could be, and you get a carryover of the older comedians into the 80s at least, that probably tempered some of that, the newer comedians.
Yeah, like Sam Kinison had some, rather aggressively atheist points at times, but he was also funny.
And he was actually trained as a preacher.
Jay Leno, progressive to the core, but funny. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
Pentecostal. Well, I think.
Yeah, he was
Sam
from...
Kinison?
Yeah, he was from the town next to mine. Like, he's a kind of local hero. And he may have died reconciled to Christ, according to eyewitnesses at the scene.
I hope so.
Well, we can only hope.
Amen.
We can pray.
Hope that too.
Huh.
Of course, he fell prey to the
Makes a
cursed
lot of sense
Eskimo
in
movie.
retrospect.
Matt, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. I thought George Carlin was against political correctness. Then again, he was kind of leftist. There's that. None of them. No one on the progressive side is against political correctness. No one on Earth is actually against censorship. They're just against themselves getting censored.
Make no mistake, if George Carlin was around today, he would be in favor of anti-vaxxers having their kids taken away. I am 100% convinced about that. He'd be all for that. He'd be calling for it.
I am wondering how much the Golem and also people's memory about, we have the backpedaling right now because of polling numbers don't look good, but I'm wondering how many people are going to go, no, I don't forgive you. I saw what you did. I know what you are now. You don't, you just, no. And also that the Golem is still trying to get away, and everyone's going to, the Golem's still going to say, we got to do the masks, even though everything else is saying, no, forget about it. It didn't happen. The past 2 years is malaise.
Yeah, some messages have been mixed here, evidently, huh?
Oh yeah, Trudeau's trying to hold on while everyone else is saying, even UK is looking at him and going, bruh, you can just drop it now.
Yeah, someone didn't get the memo.
It's just
They're
a pressure
going to try
release.
to memory hole it, but the kids who start screaming in fear, the kids who start screaming in fear every time they see an unmasked face are going to be reminders for a long time.
It's hilarious that
Well, I
anyone
mean, like,
thinks
Brian is
anything
also
is
right.
over.
You brought up the idea that it is
Like,
just
nothing-
pressure relief, right?
Yeah, nothing's over. In 2 weeks, they're going to reinstitute all this.
Like-
Just wait.
Yeah, they just let it up for a little bit, and then they clamp it back down again.
That's what they've always done.
Well, it's not that they'll keep doing this specific thing. They'll do something else.
Yeah.
The thing is, what is the something else? What is the shoe dropping? Because it's
Oh,
obvious they can't do this. They're trying for war, but Mr. I am KGB, I've played chess forever, is not taking bait. So they can't get war.
Well,
If it does happen, it's going to be Gulf of Tonkin or equivalent. It won't be actually Russia did anything. But it'll be Fedis pretending, even though I will stop there.
look, the problem is, no matter what happens, both sides are going to claim the other side started it with a false flag attack, so we can't really determine truth that way. And just in a geostrategic sense, Russia's got... There's an old saying, you can do anything with a pile of bayonets except sit on it. Russia has enough troops where they are that they either need to do something with them or leave. They can't keep them there forever. But I prefer to save the analysis until if something happens, which it's far from guaranteed that it will.
right.
We can only see after how it shakes down, what happens there. But as far as the domestic situation goes, Brian is right. They're letting loose just a little bit of steam off the population, but then it's only a matter of time before they clamp back down again, right?
Well, you see the
And
framework.
when you talk about the memory hole, like, okay, remember this must have been 2019, I think. Maybe I'm getting my dates mixed. No, 2020. Remember that certain jab that Trump was pushing that researchers created in record time? How many people on the left were saying they were never gonna take it because they didn't trust Trump, who apparently created the jab, right? And then the moment he leaves office, they spin around as if nothing happened and say they were for it the whole time, and that if you don't take it, they'll take your kids away and fire you from your jobs. And they can say this without any...
Okay. Whoa, rein it in. Reel it in. We do not want to get Geek Gab banned from YouTube, please. I know you didn't listen last night, but they are...
Monitored by the NSA.
Yeah.
Okay. Apologies, but...
Okay, so what were you saying?
My point has been
Hold
made,
on.
right?
What were you... Alright, what were we going to say, Paul Parkavis? Because you started to weigh in.
Well, the first thing is, framework announcement today was we need another booster shot, and then the other thing it's pointing out the hypocrisy of the left or of anyone right now doesn't work because it's all friend-enemy distinction these days. So, are you in our group? Okay, you're good. You can do some very heinous acts, and we'll still have your back. If you're not in our group, you can be a living saint, and we're still going to burn you.
It's not hypocrisy. It's hierarchy. It's fully makes sense when you understand. It's not hypocrisy. No, it's hierarchy. They are the different class.
In World War II, we bombed Japan's ships, and we didn't bomb our own. It wasn't hypocrisy, they were just the enemy.
And most importantly, they can do a heel-face turn without hesitation. So, doesn't matter. Their memory span is like a fruit fly. You don't have to. That's out of the strategic calculus or strategic consideration.
And I'm going to request that we change the subject or something, because the NSA just today declared COVID and election misinformation a national security threat.
Seconded.
Seriously? Oh, well.
Yes.
All in favor say aye.
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 This is not a democracy. We're
I
not
don't
talking
believe
about
in
it.
democracy.
Yeah.
Yes. Dictatorship ruled by Brian, who's a current regent.
That's right.
Going to chat. Looks like Mad Matt, the headbanging mecha pilot. Nice name, by the way.
Oh, we
That's
have.
talking about dropping out of Hollywood and celebrity culture for the most part, and mostly just sticking with anime/manga, indie video games, and indie novels. Smart.
Smart. Very smart.
Like,
I would.
Hollywood and celebrity culture in general is just a. Ugh.
There's. Brian said this last night, but it is a very good thing he said. Cultural ground zero, both video games and for general more media 97 and video games 07, is not that there isn't good things, it's just the general stuff that you have from either the big production of video games globally or mostly in the United States and West media that everyone can get access to is not just the usual 90% bad, low production, but you might enjoy it. You know, it's now mostly bad if it's not indie or one standout film now and then, or game. Or it basically, if it's generally big production, it's kind of over. But you can go to indie. We'll see how long anime lasts. I think anime is yet to hit its 07 equivalent, but maybe it always has been in that little box. But yeah, you do have options for now.
I think it was Martello said
Nice
that
thing
Japan
about-
has.
Going ground zero with Hollywood.
Sorry, one more time.
You're saying something about Japan?
I was saying something you were saying about Japan, and I think you interrupted. I think I interrupted you about to say the same thing about how Japan has no natural immunity to the death cult infection. Something along those lines.
Well, actually, I was talking about this with Scale the other day. Japan is in the weird case of morally and culturally, they skipped straight from pagan to post-Christian. Like, 1945 America was not in policy, but at its core, still a deeply Christian nation. The people actually fighting World War II saw it as a crusade to protect their Christian faith against the forces of the atheist Nazis. So it's just that we had kind of stopped with the proselytization. So when MacArthur started ruling Japan, he instituted all of the cultural aspects of Christianity that he was used to, but without forcibly converting them. So Japan has morally gone from being pagans, nihilistic Bushido Buddhist Shinto types, to essentially post-Christian atheists.
You know, it's amazing that MacArthur was able to do that after, I say, the biggest tragedy of the war, or one of the biggest tragedies of the war, in a war full of tragedies, was nuking Nagasaki specifically, which was the center of Japanese Christianity.
Yeah.
If you believe that was not just a coincidence.
It
I've
was-
seen suggestions that wasn't a coincidence. Can't prove
It-
it hard, but it seems to be.
Unless Truman somehow had a weather machine, it was a coincidence. Now, I believe that it was a case of infernal intervention. It's, you know,
Whether it was intentional or not, I won't say one or the other, but it happened, and if it didn't, I think some things would have turned out differently in post-war Japan.
maybe.
Right.
A lot of
But
powers were intervening
that-
there.
I've made, which Yeah.
Yes.
the point that I've made, which Brian was referencing, was that Japan is actually, I would argue, particularly susceptible to progressivism, this leftist thought, precisely because they skipped their Christian phase.
To use a virus analogy to take from where you are, Martel, I think the main reason why, even though they are vulnerable, there's been no good protein slotting into their culture. Like, in theory, the virus should be able to just run havoc. But the reason progressivism, and Brian's referenced this before, it is a death cult, but he's more referencing it's using Christian trappings than becoming a cult. And then, because it's going down the degradation of Christianity, it becomes a death cult. But it's still using all the trappings, the original sin, all that. Because they skipped to post-Christian, they actually somewhat didn't get the protein slottings for instant invasion. Now, someone's going to eventually crack the code, and I think the way they're cracking the code is the ESG, a thing you should Google, the ESG rules and investments. But investment money, and people have already seen this with Namco Bandai, one of the biggest entertainment companies, starting to show that ESG type-ish things, diversity and all that. And it's not because they outright believe in it yet or all that, it's because that's the vector now. They're vulnerable, but there was no protein slotting for the death cult, so they had to evolve the death cult to go with the no proteins.
Well, co-option by fandom wasn't working.
That was the protein slotting not working. There was no proteins.
So now they're trying for a top-down instead of a bottom-up approach?
Yeah, hijacking the immune system.
Yeah, Japan will fall. Unless something changes. They'll fall in time.
Yeah.
No, what I was going to say originally about going brand zero with Hollywood or whatever is it's actually quite liberating to not have to care about celebrity culture at all. I think it was... I don't even remember much about this, I just remember people reacting to it. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck back in the mid-2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Or just looking at people around me when I was... obsessing over the personal lives of these Hollywood celebrities who they've never met, will never meet, don't affect them in any way.
National Enquirer culture.
Yep. And you see this on the internet too. Like e-drama and e-celebrity stuff where people get themselves worked into a frothing rage over someone who they've never met, never going to meet. Really only goes around in a couple of distinct circles. It's just not healthy for anyone.
Curious, is the Hollywood celebrity cult kind of thing, do you think it's better, worse, or equivalent to the same way people do the same thing with the rural families of the world?
I think it's a little bit of a replacement because of it, but then again, you also see a big effort for Americans to care about the royal family of a country that we went to war to get away from.
Yeah, I know a few of them myself. I was just curious about your thoughts, if anyone else has anything to chime in.
Well, the British so-called royal family is an interesting case because they're a bunch of fan models who were invited over precisely so they could be a bunch of useless celebrity royals.
Well, as I'm prone to say about this is, all the kings since Arthur are illegitimate, so at least in my eyes.
Oh, and an answer to chat. I'm just doing some grinding here to level up my team. So this isn't like a scripted battle.
Promo in particular. Yeah. Going in chat. Someone's talking of Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Good.
Always a good one.
It's good.
I think Noethis, whichever the new one's going, the new series is going to have another season this year.
Wait,
Do
what
you
new
know
series?
Well, there's the original 1990s OAVs that a lot of people know, and then over the last few years, there's one that's The Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and I'll translate out the German, but it's called The New Thesis. And what it is, it's basically a retelling. Not reinterpretation, but okay, it's been 20 years, let's redo it again. Because Japan's going through their own remake fever right now. So, but they've remade, I think, 3 seasons of it they've done 3 seasons of it so far, I believe, and they're about ready to release another one.
Is it any good?
I thought it was pretty good. Pretty good. Obviously, subs over dubs, especially with the state of the today's voice acting.
I see you're a man of culture as well.
Ooh.
More man of spite right now.
Yeah, plus Japan, like when you listen to enough different languages, you ever notice how they all have their different cadences, like their own rhythm, their own pitch and tone and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the big frustrations with it, because high-pitched voice, very cute and comes across as cute in Japanese, and to some people even attractive. And while English lower voices tend to be more attractive with females. So that was one of my frustrations, because at least in the 2000s, everyone was trying to match the performance of the Japanese voice actresses without thinking of how it would come across in English.
Yeah. On the male side, they can hit a deeper pitch in regular conversation than English speakers typically can, like depending on character. If you ever watch Overlord and compare the English versus subs versus dubs, the English dub is about an octave and a half higher than the Japanese one. For the main character, I mean.
Brethren Walker in chat says
And
that the
then
new
the
Legend
other-
of Galactic Heroes is worth
other
watching, not
thing-
as good as the original, and he would know. Just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Way more slavishly adapting the novels than the OVAs. Having not read the novel, I couldn't say if that's any good. Or good thing about it. The other thing, and actually Overlord, is another good reference point to this. The dub for that one's actually pretty decent, but just in general, the thing I've noticed with more modern dubs especially, they feel the need to sync their lines up with the character's lips. Which again, Japanese is a completely different cadence from English. Plus, each letter being its own separate syllable means that it's more like a Gilbert and Sullivan patter song than the way we talk in English.
That's an
Would
interesting
it be better to
comparison.
leave it unsynced then, or?
That is really
Yes.
weird. That is really
Yes.
weird, because the opening for, I think, the 2nd season or something of Overlord has English, like real English, maybe Japanese sung it, but real English with 2 of the female NPCs, since it's a game turned real. But they're both singing something and things veracity, and it's pure English synced. Yet that's very interesting.
Yeah. No, it's
End
just
up like-
something I noticed. You have to... Voice actors have to do this really rapid, almost breathless sort of speech in order to sync it up with what the character seems to be saying.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it would be better to leave it unsynced, because then it could end up like those old classic dubs of Hong Kong action films where the
I
lip
happen
sync
to
doesn't
like-
like the dialogue at all.
But
I happen to
I mean,
like those.
I watch those, but the dubs I like ironically. I watch them and it gives it an almost comedic effect for me. To actually just watch them, I just watch the original Chinese dialogue with subtitles.
Well,
if you hear them on the ear, in many cases, even as admittedly hokey as a couple of the old Shaw Brothers dubs could be, there is an aesthetic to it that's easier on the ear than a lot of today's. I really don't like voice acting. I really don't like the fact that the anime voice acting studios are starting to branch out into like Russian films and international live films and such. I've seen some pretty egregious edits that have come because of this, and it doesn't sound. I can't explain it other than it doesn't sound right.
I wasn't aware that they were branching out. That's bad.
Yeah, there was a Russian movie that was one of their national heroes, kind of his last stand against the Mongols. It was supposed to be brought up because the Mongols actually wanted the Russian prince's wife because they had never had an empress before, in a carnal sense, and that's in the legend. That's what kicks off this massive fight, this heroic last stand, and of course, if you know the types of personalities that are involved, nothing to make the Mongols, evil, creepy, offensive came through in the dub. So it was hollowed out because not just from the Sonic's viewpoint of using voice actors instead of actors for the voiceovers. It was also hollowed out because they couldn't bring themselves to be true to the story.
Oh, that's just awful.
Mm.
That is horrific. Yeah. That is terrible. Butchering a story like that.
And unfortunately, on that note, I'm going to have to duck out for a bit. Hope to see you all next time.
Thanks for joining us.
Peace out.
Take care.
Full Parkivist, everybody.
Take care.
Great guy. What a man.
Great dude.
He always adds a lot.
Knows his.
Yeah, I think one thing that dubs fail and they could do more often is playing with, and I think it's because just the whole industry has been rapid fire cheap as you do it turnover, particularly the Western side where it's just licensing, but you can get away with a lot of just dialogue when the camera's looking at someone else, so then you don't have to sync things at all. And I know some shows understood that principle, so they didn't have to always have lip syncing.
You know what I miss in even subtitles nowadays? Translator notes. It's something you don't really see that often anymore, huh?
Keikaku means plan.
That's
Yes,
one of the
the death note. Keikaku.
that's one of the more egregious examples. But for example, I've been watching a Chinese drama called Three Kingdoms. That's, if you can tell by the title, an adaptation of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. And in Chinese, especially like when you're adapting classical Chinese literature from far older bygone eras, they themselves reference a lot of other works of classical Chinese literature, like poems, historical figures, and whatnot. And in the in the dialogue, when they make these references, you wouldn't understand it at all unless you were actually steeped in traditional Chinese culture and classical education. But the translator's notes, at least in this example, are like one of the best things about the translated subs, where it actually explains to you. You get to watch a great show and learn a little bit about traditional Chinese culture at the same time, because they have to make sense of these references. Otherwise, it would just go right over your head, and you'd be missing a lot of the story. In all honesty,
Right.
a lot of the dynamic in the dialogue is informed by these references that they're making. So that's one of the better examples, and I feel like there's opportunities for that in anime. It's just that no one really takes it, and even subtitles anymore.
Oh, you're making the argument for localization right there.
I think I'm making the argument exactly the opposite against localization, where in localization they change it to where it doesn't match the dialogue, but it's like a cultural equivalent, versus a translator's note where it's just they just keep it as it is. They just explain it in a way that you can understand in
Fair.
the translator's note. Unless I'm
Fair.
misunderstanding something.
Oh no, I was just thinking with localization, trying to. Yeah, no, I take your point.
Yeah.
Speaking of points, look at all the Holy
if
Knight
that's your
points
bag,
I got.
then, more power to you. Ooh, very nice.
Nice.
Move +1 first thing.
Gogol.
Always.
Gogolrand. Where did they come up with these names, I wonder?
Oh, we went over that last time. It's a subtle riff on Golgotha,
Gogolrand.
because it is where the Messiah of Evil East was executed.
All of these references... I don't know if this has been brought up before, but I'm curious about your take, Brian. Where does this trope in Japanese RPGs in particular come from, where the party always ends up fighting a deity or the deity, as it were, in the story?
I think we've discussed this on the show, haven't we? I mean, it's definitely the right panel to talk about this. I'm going to open the floor. Martel, what do you think?
I think the best theory that we've had so far is that it's sort of a lingering cultural holdover of Gnosticism and Buddhism in Japanese culture, where they make the category error of conceiving of God as simply a higher god. Plus, there's the standard Gnostic/Buddhist thing of the world is an illusion which must be overcome in order to reach enlightenment, and yada yada yada.
Anybody else? Agree, disagree? Have a nuance on that?
I have no reason
I mean, yeah,
to say. I have nothing about that screams out at me to disagree with it.
Okay, well, there's your answer.
There is, at least I've seen a lot of it, and then. Yep.
Let's see. Chan says in the chat, Dummy gets even weirder when Chinese games use Japanese as their original language, which is then redubbed into Chinese/English afterwards, because China has an even worse voice actor industry than the English sphere. Wow.
Actually, I can believe that. There is like a lot of Chinese animations right now and such, but to be anime, like hell, there's even like a bunch of video games like Genshin Impact, but really, most everyone wants to have the Japanese voice acting or something even above the English. It's like how to be the authentic Asian game is to, well, find the Japanese dubbers.
Which is hilarious given China's deep-seated antipathy for anything Japanese.
That is interesting, isn't it? I suppose the... I suppose they can set it aside to make some money or spread their cultural influence further. Huh. That's interesting. I've watched one or two Chinese animes, at least a couple episodes, but I only remember it being in Chinese, and I can definitely tell it was Chinese. It was
Oh
really
yeah,
rough
yeah.
to
The
listen to.
anime, yeah, the anime is I would expect, but I mean like the games like Genshin Impact and other stuff, unless it's supposed to be like one game that's like Chinese history and such, and then it makes sense and all that. But I mean, it just is a lot of like other stuff is just like the English and Japanese preferred over just Chinese or anything. So I don't know. It depends. One really interesting production by Uniro Butcher, the guy who did a lot of some of my most favorite animes. He worked with a Taiwanese, well, not the best kind of group, but yes, Taiwanese Muppets or puppets, and he wrote as a Japanese guy the drama, and they used Japanese voice actors, and I can't remember. Basically, he writes the most epic anime OTSs that are better than most Hollywood music scores. And he did like the Unicorn soundtrack and all that. That guy.
Ooh.
Oh, Hiroki Samano?
Yeah, Hiroku Samino. And it's literally a Japanese story type. It's the I can't remember what it types. I can't remember what specific genre they call it, but it's a very type that's Chinese, not Japanese. But it literally, besides the puppets that are technically Chinese through Taiwan, it's literally all Japan. They're one of the most infamous, he did Psycho Pass, he did Blaster Beetle, he's done lots of basic Phantom for Requiem, both the visual novel and then the animated films down the line. And his tropes usually, oh yeah, Fate Zero too. He usually has the tropes is you're going to no happy endings. There's the Modern Warfare 2 no Russian. His is no happy endings. But he then writes this actually kind of more happy, not maybe a happy ending outright, but more happy-ish style Muppet show with dolls from China, but everything else is Japanese.
I've
it's crazy.
seen clips of Thunderbolt Fantasy, and
Yes.
I've listened to the soundtrack. The soundtrack is incredible. And the show was actually kind of compelling.
Yes. The Crunchyroll comments are hilarious. He's going, I don't believe this. I am now 3 episodes in, and I'm watching Chinese Muppets do crazy sword fights. Sign me up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I suppose puppetry, or even not even just puppetry, like puppetry, stop motion, claymation is almost I would say that's almost an underexplored medium for visual media. At least I would say.
Yeah, no, Thunderbolt's fantasy is highly unique, that it just takes an ancient art form and then the anime's industry strengths that are all there, and then just bolts them on to the puppetry.
And the soundtrack is fantastic because of Hiroki Samano, who, by the way, also did a soundtrack for Legends of Galactic Heroes, the new thesis, the remake that we were just talking about.
Yeah, no. He's kind of the Hans Zimmer of the anime industry right now.
Okay, on with
A
the
good thing to
story
be, as far as
advancing
I'm
plot
concerned.
here. Oop, spoke too soon.
Excellent.
Oh, we got a random
Yeah,
battle
actually,
here.
I'm looking at comments. Chan, it really doesn't help that Chinese itself is distinctly unpleasant language to listen to. Yeah, I've actually, I remember bouncing between like Chinese, Korean, and Japanese once, just comparing it and the entertainment. I mean, Korean, well, good film to see, the good, bad, and the ugly, play off of the good, and the weird, the good, bad, and the weird, and play off the good, bad, and the ugly of the Western form, and it's set in Manchuria during World War II, just about to come about around. So the Japanese are the bad guys, the Koreans are the good guys, and the Chinese are kind of there, but it's really about the Korean trying to survive.
Sounds
But,
like Manchuria.
Yeah. But but it's the Korean is just, it's, I don't know, like if you watched a lot of anime, subs implied here, you kind of are familiarized with Japanese. Korean just sounds different, and like different like because it is different, but it's not like bad sounding.
Yeah.
But yeah, that there is just the, I can't remember, it's the romanization. If you look at the romanization of spoken Chinese words, it is like there's S's
Indian?
and, yeah. Well, I'm saying if you look at the romanization of how the pronunciations of the phonetics way they're saying anything in Chinese, I'm almost sure you're seeing a lot of CHs and S's running around, and that is harsher than just what you see in other forms of romanized.
Just the inflections tend to be a lot harsher or more percussive than Korean or Japanese.
Because Chinese is a tonal language. So that matters for how you communicate in their language, for better or worse.
Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
I absolutely take your point that it's a lot more. Just, it's not a pleasant sounding language,
Yeah.
at least not to the Western ear.
Although there's a lot of, if the voice is really pleasant, you can get past that. Like watching Three Kingdoms, I'll bring that up again. A lot of the Chinese people, or the people in that production, had really pleasant sounding voices, and the way they spoke was, no, it's normal Chinese. It's just, I don't know, for some reason the voice didn't bother me as much as when I listened to those episodes of Chinese anime where it was really rough on my ears. There's a difference there, but I can't really pin it down, besides maybe just the voices just themselves being better. I don't know.
What do people think of Tolkien's theory that some languages...
Voice acting aside, I really...
Am I coming through?
Yeah.
You're good.
Yep.
Good. We're waiting.
Oh, good. Yeah, with this new headset, like, it's hard to see...
Tolkien's theory of languages?
Yeah, it's hard to see if I'm muted or not. Because there's no LED indicator. But anyway, yeah, Tolkien's theory that some languages, like, just sound worse than others. Like, when he invented the Black Speech and Orcish, like, he tried to make them sound ugly. Like, the Ring inscription was designed by him to just...
Ashnaz Krakatulu.
Yeah, listen to that.
Ashnaz Gimbatul. Ashnaz Durbatuluk. Ag Borzum Ishi Krimpatul.
Exactly. And I know he catches a lot of flack for that. Like, oh,
I'm
no, it's all
curious now.
relative.
No. I mean, some music sounds harsher or more melodious than others. Ultimately, all sound is just compressed airwaves, so there's absolutely no reason that certain languages shouldn't sound better or worse than others.
I'm curious now, Brian, since you understand academia better than I do, since you brought up languages and Tolkien. I'm curious, have you ever seen, like, these historians or ancient culture experts who say they recreate ancient languages, right? Like, they can recreate how ancient Sumerian sounded, or ancient Assyrian, or what have you?
Really? Like, I've seen them recreate how,
I was gonna ask.
like Shakespeare, like how, the original pronunciation of Shakespeare sounded, and everyone sounded like a pirate.
I mean, I was gonna ask, like, how does that work? Because I don't know if there's, like... I don't know that much about, science or recreating language or what have you, but I can I think I can say with some confidence that they don't have a time machine where they can go back in time and verify that that's how people actually sounded.
Yeah, they're guessing. They're making
spoke
stuff
before.
up.
Yeah.
They have to publish to keep their jobs and get their degrees and keep their tenure. So they just make stuff up, man. It's like in the field I have the most familiarity with in this regard, which is biblical historical criticism. It was a bunch of German dudes in the 19th century running around making stuff up. Like, oh yeah, well, this fragment of Genesis was clearly from the P source, but this one over here was clearly from the Y source. Like, okay, well then you can show me the original P document and the original Y document. Like, you empirically have those, right? No. Okay, you can show me fragments of them, right? No. Okay, well then surely the earliest extant copies of Scripture we have, like Leningradensis and Russia, or now the Dead Sea Scrolls, like, indicate redaction and compilation from different sources. No, they're like almost exact duplicates of each other. Okay, so just making stuff up? Well, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, don't the most faithful translations match up with the earliest sources we've discovered with something like 96% accuracy, and most of the rest is just like copyist syntax.
Yep.
Okay.
Also, back to the game real quick. Dark Knight's back.
Yep. He thinks he's got me in an ambush. Little does he know, I don't care.
So friendly's outside dealing with assault. You are on a 1v1 anime battle, I see.
Correct.
Go ahead and ambush me. What?
Well, and since I'm in
see how that
encirclement
turned
here,
out?
I'm going to pick one guy just to focus all my strength on to break through. So let's see, can I get around this way? No, trying to
Well,
think.
it's like standard doctrine for dealing with an ambush. You just assault straight into it.
Yep.
What is it that General Chesty Fuller said? We're surrounded. They can't get away from us now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to go for their summoner.
Yep.
Escape Velocity pops by in chat. What's up, guys? Can't stay long tonight. Just saying hello. Well, hello, Escape Velocity. Hope life finds you well.
And which languages are the most melodious? Also from Escape Velocity.
The most melodious. That's tough. That's tough.
I know
A
it's
lot
not
of it
C++.
depends on the voice itself, at least for me. But as a rule, I will say. Let's see. Have you ever heard an Iranian speak Farsi? I quite like the sound of Farsi.
Farsi's pretty good. Honestly, I'm gonna have to go with German.
German is not a bad choice. Contrary to its weird stereotype reputation, where I don't know where that comes from. Besides,
There
like,
is a
old-
reason why all of the great operas are either in Italian or German.
Italian is another good one. Now that you bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where that reputation for German being a harsh language comes from. Because when you hear normal German speakers speak, every day, as long as they're not playing the role of the Doctor in a World War II film, they
Which is
sound
probably
quite
where it
pleasant.
comes from.
But
The
Now that-
exaggerated German accent when speaking English. And stuff like Guten Nacht. The sound.
Right. It's also like how the fake British accent that does not exist anywhere is in always any movie you need a British guy who's not from anywhere in England if you actually know that accent doesn't exist.
I mean, there's a reason German
Well, what
is one
about
of the
the-
three
the
great
films
operatic
work?
languages.
Yep.
I should listen to some operas.
Actually, in terms of melodious languages, Arabic.
Hmm.
I
You ever
can
listen to
believe
some of the Arab songs? They're actually quite striking.
That gets back to where the hell did English come from? Like, I understand it comes from Germanic roots, but
It came from Saxon barmaids and French knights saying something while laying in between covers together.
Yep.
Yeah, but it steals a lot of stuff from Arabic, and not that Arabic stuff, but use Arabic letters and lettering modern form, and it marries.
You mean numbers?
Numerals.
Yeah, the numerals.
We use Roman letters.
Yeah, what's the saying? English hangs out in back alleys and mugs languages for their syntax.
Yep.
More or
Rifles
less.
through their pockets for loose grammar.
That's right.
Yeah. I think like Old English was very Germanic sounding, right? But then after the Norman invasions, that's where they introduced a lot of French, and then Latin also came earlier than that with the Roman invasions and occupations, of course. So you had Latin, you had the original like Germanic English base, then French came in. So it's more or less a mix of all those languages.
Yeah. And as for the Arabic numerals part of it, you really can't pin that one on English specifically, because at this point everyone in the world uses Arabic numerals because they're just obviously an objectively superior system for number than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, they everyone uses them
Oh,
for the arithmetic because it just makes it that much easier.
she's got samurai skills.
Yeah. I will... Nice. Yeah,
And
I
it's
will
weird
talk
that-
up the objective superiority of Arab numerals and Roman letters till the day after.
Yeah. And it's weird to think that like your number system can determine how far a society advances in a lot of ways, right? Where with Roman numerals, it was difficult to do a lot of arithmetic, and Chinese numerals, it can be the same. But with Arab numerals, it was easy to do large sums. And then when you add a modern like mathematical notation with pluses, minuses, and equal signs to make formulas and equations easy to follow, all of a sudden math just becomes way more accessible to a larger part of the population.
Yep.
It's weird to think of the equal sign as being an invention, but it's an invention just as much as the number 0 is.
Which is why I still laugh. One of the many, many, many reasons that atheists mean about scientific advancement and the gap left by Christian ages. But
The most vaguely defined. Oh yeah, the gap left by the Dark Ages.
yeah,
You
the
see that.
Christian Dark Ages, just so we all know them. But no, there were a lot of factors which needed to be met. There were a lot of requirements which needed to be met before we could get something like the modern scientific system, and one of those was a system of mathematical notation.
Right.
Yeah. But just there are so many problems with that particular graph that they
Oh, absolutely.
don't pull up. It's just we'd be here all night.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on it before, but
It is
I
also
wanted
made
to,
up.
I want to
That's
touch on
really
something tangential related.
yes.
Yeah, that's more or less the crux of it. But I wanted to touch on something tangential related that Brian brought up earlier that we kind of moved away from real quick. The whole idea of because I remember back in my early middle school days when I was one of those edgy top hat atheists. I remember reading something about those people, the scholars that said the Bible is written by like what the 4 sources or something like that instead of the 4 Gospels, like the Y source, the P source, the Q source, something to that effect.
Oh,
It's
you're
been a
mixing
long
Old and New
time.
Testament,
Brian is
but
talking about that.
yeah. So yeah,
And
for the
that's
Old
just-
Testament,
they
it's
literally
like
just made that up.
yeah, for the Old Testament, it's like they claim that Moses didn't actually write the Pentateuch, that it was compiled by like 5 different sources. So there's the Yahwist source, which they identify by using the Tetragrammaton to refer to God. So again, that's how flimsy it is, from like this one word choice, as if authors never vary up which nouns they use. They're claiming that means, oh, well, anything that refers to the Tetragrammaton is a different author. And then the Elohist source uses Elohim for the divine name instead. So again, based on one word. Then the priestly source, which is basically, oh, anytime you've got references to, well, like, right worship can only be carried out in Jerusalem, like, by the Levitical priesthood. Well, that's priestly propaganda that was really written by a priest long after the Exodus, like when the Jews are in the Holy Land and they've got the temple, and the theory is that, like, some priestly scribe inserted this into the Bible to convince people to come to Jerusalem and offer sacrifice. And then, yeah, there are a couple more, but it's basically along those lines. And not only do we not have any copies or fragments of these original, like, YEJDP sources, but there's a graph out there of, like, they took, like, 100 different historical critical Bible scholars and asked them, okay, well, which parts, like, of just Genesis do you think come from which source? And none of them agree. Like, they're all over the place.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so it's
Now-
like... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that from a historical perspective, if they were making the argument that 5 different people had written different parts of the Bible on the basis of syntax or word choice or whatever, I can't actually believe that, if only because most people in the past didn't write in their own hand, they dictated. But that's just a literary thing, not an actual content. Like, we don't have anything of Aristotle's written by Aristotle, but no one disputes that it was originally Aristotle's writing.
Yeah. Right, again and again you see these super granular, fine criteria only applied to the Bible. Like, no other book in history could pass muster. But they make a special, unprincipled exception for the Bible. Like, nope, it's got to jump through all these hoops, or it's debunked. Well, okay, what about Plato? What about Aristotle? What about Caesar's History of the Gallic War? What about the Magna Carta? Oh, well no, we don't have a problem with those. Go ahead.
We have grand dissertations about specific things Julius Caesar done. And how many source documents we have about all the life of Julius Caesar? I'm not sure we have as many as we do about certain parts of the Bible. By
About
factors
3, and the latest extant copy we have, the earliest extant copy we have, came out 8 centuries after.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like 3 or 4, and it's, about 800 or 900 years after he passed away. That's when they were written.
Yeah,
And it moves from the Bible with about 5,000 or so down to 4 or 5.
Yeah, and the earliest extant copies of the New Testament that we have are, 80 AD or so?
Yeah.
100 AD, maybe 100 years after the death of Messiah, which would make them the single most recent to the events that they're describing historical document we've been able to recover.
Yeah.
The other thing that comes out of this too is if this is all a fabrication, then Cervantes is not the first novelist that he doesn't get the prize anymore.
Well, Tobias would, from the Book of Tobit. By the way, in chat I see Escape Velocity asking about Farsi. You're asking what that is. That's basically Persian. Comes from the same root word as Persia. It's like Farsi, Persia. Yeah, it's same root word.
Well, Persia is the Grecianization of Fars, the province in which it originates, because Farsi doesn't actually have the letter P.
Mm-hmm.
And the Persian emperors referred to themselves as the emperors of Iran. The Greeks called them Persians.
Well, there you go.
Once
Shah
again,
on Shah, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, King of
yeah, that's
Kings.
pretty much. I wrote it down. So I shall declare you barbarian in the sense of Roman, or Persian in the sense of Greek. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No,
Well, actually, barbarian was Greek too originally.
So the Greek got to define all of them.
Well, the Greek, because the Greeks separated the entire world into the Greek-speaking world and the non-Greek-speaking world, which the term barbarian comes from the onomatopoeia that they used to mock everyone who didn't speak Greek, because it just sounded like people going bar.
And I thought it had to
To
do with
them.
the Latin word for beard.
Hmm.
Barba.
Unrelated etymologies, I believe.
Because I've heard both.
I've heard both too, so I couldn't tell you which is that's interesting.
I'm not sure why beard would be the defining feature.
Because Romans shaved. Like, that's still a dispute between, like, the Catholic and Orthodox
You only see
churches.
that in the movies.
These, like, up till now, like, I'm sure you've seen the memes, like, shave your beard, heathen! Grow your beard! Like, pagan.
I have not seen it. I try to stay off theological Twitter.
I can't blame you.
I mostly think, at this time, it should just be the eternal, we shall have the Orthodox versus Catholic debate, and no one else counts. Yes, we're talking about you Lutherans and Protestants and Anglicans.
I mean, you really can't ignore us on the basis of numbers.
Especially
I'm
not the
speaking as
Orthodox.
someone who disassociates from the... Yeah. I disassociate with the evangelicals. I can walk away from them.
Again, which evangelicals? There's it.
I do love on
And you
theological
think
Twitter.
that Orthodox versus Catholic? Good.
Well, along those lines, I do love on theological Twitter whenever the Orthobros go on a tear, whenever they get going, and like start attacking Rome. It's like, yes, you're the first schismatics, and inevitably some Protestants come on and cheering on the Orthobros, liking their tweets, like, yeah, you show them. Yes, and like innovators on the original teachings of the apostles, and Protestants are like, yeah, like, and mother of the arch heresy of Protestantism, and then, wait, what? Just bubble burst. It's cute.
Yeah, they really should have seen that one coming.
They never do.
And yeah. Hey, the nice thing about being a Protestant is that I don't have to speak for all Protestants. Kind of the point of schism.
Or schism, as I think the Brits should say. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm an ecumenical sort of guy. But can we not just all get along while we have bigger issues at hand?
Yes.
Like, let's get America back to being a Christian nation before we debate about which specific type of Christianity.
Yeah, so then we can get back to killing each other
Actually, here's
over
something
what
I'm
the
kinda
sacraments mean.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait.
Here's something I'm curious about. How is the Coptic Egyptian Church recognized?
Monophysite heretics.
Well, okay.
Ah,
For the longest time, they were thought to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Monophysites? Yeah, some kind of, Christological heresy.
They
but,
believe that the sun has only a single essence.
well, recently, though, like, while I was in grad school, that was given another look, and some scholars dug into the translations of the Coptic doctrines, and I think it was actually ruled that, okay, no, they're not actually Monophysites. Like, that was due to kind of the telephone game and misunderstandings. So I think they've been rehabilitated.
Wait, the Copts are not actually monophysites.
No, from my understanding, they are not. It was a big misunderstanding.
That's a
someone-
heck of a misunderstanding.
Well,
I wish someone told that to Justinian. That would have been a...
well, look. Okay, look. 'Cause,
Well, no, Justinian was dealing with actual monophysites.
Well, look. Here's why Latin is good. It is more copious than the Greek. So, for example, Latin has the terms natura and persona, right? Whereas in Greek, you only have husos. They have one word that means nature and person. And that was one reason it was so hard. Like, the Arian heresy stuck around for so long, it was so hard to dislodge. Like, it wasn't really until they kind of invented the word prosopon or coined it into theological context that they were able to start to resolve that. So when the West deals with the East, you got to be really careful about, like, which shade of meaning of a particular word is being used, because whether it's Greeks or Copts or Byzantines, they don't have as many words in their sacred language.
Okay.
You know, I remember asking a couple of friends of mine. I remember asking their parents if they actually spoke Coptic, because they were Coptic Egyptian when I was younger. I remember the mom telling me distinctly, "No, we do not speak Coptic. You see, the Arabs, they come to my country and they do not leave."
At least they're speaking very
She was a
Malaysian.
wonderful lady. Yeah, she was a wonderful lady. But I was sad to learn that most Egyptians, even Coptics especially, don't speak actual Egyptian. But it has been preserved, as is usually the case, by the church.
And by the people on the
Where
Stargate
priests still
planet.
speak it as their that too. Which is funny to think.
That was a good
but,
show.
Yes.
You know, I've only ever seen clips of Stargate. Never actually seen the whole thing myself.
If you watch Stargate SG-1, I would advise reading a synopsis of the first season and then starting with the second. Because
Yeah, besides like 2 or 3 episodes, there's really not anything you really miss in the first season.
No.
yeah, the first season had that first season weirdness going on before they really found their groove.
Hell, you could just watch the finale and you'd probably be fine, and the finale sets up everything for the next of the good arcs.
Yeah. And they do have some very good arcs.
Yeah.
Pretty good movies too.
The episodes in the first season aren't bad. It's like you can tell that they don't know exactly what they want to do with the show.
Exactly, first season weirdness.
Yeah.
Like I try to not judge any TV show by the first few episodes or first few seasons precisely for that reason.
So Crusader says, and have you seen the movie Stargate at least?
Baudre Noir says, no, actually.
I want to check that
Also completely unessential if you want to watch the TV show.
Yeah,
I should watch the movie before I watch the show.
it lets you know if you like Stargate, because they eventually figure out what they got right in the movie, and then they sort of be able to make long arc episodes with sometimes Monster of the Week based off of the theme the first movie did.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make sure to keep that in mind. What
And
about
they have some pretty good humor.
what was that show that everyone talks about called
Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah, what do you think
Which
about that?
one?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. I'm just asking you, should I watch it?
The 1977 season is decent. I
The
definitely
newer
recommend.
one,
The newer one ended itself. Thank goodness it ended itself.
yeah. Weirdly enough, the first season was the best for the new one.
Yeah, the first season was the best. The worst was the third season. But the best thing about BGS was that it actually was going for its ending place, and I mean, maybe it was ratings or not, but the writers and the Captain Adama, who was actually one of the main producers, directors, he pretty much knew how to land the ship.
Really?
I mean, yeah, he landed the ship or crashed it in the sun, but
Yeah, I wasn't terribly happy with how it ended, but that's just because the seasons leading up to the ending had been so disappointing. So really, it's good that it ended.
Speaking of endings, check it out, I'm going to use Holy on the Dark Knight.
Modern binging model.
All right,
Ooh.
Spend for Holy Dark Knight.
nice. Does it one shot?
Yup.
Oh yeah, it one shots.
It's the ultimate white magic.
Nice.
Calculator
one shot.
broken. Calculator, calculate Holy.
Yep. Which proves, as Augustine said,
Best in chat.
that either God is a number or God created number. Oh, we got him! Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Oh, he became a diamond.
Yeah, Battlestar Galactica, like I said, the ending left me very unsatisfied, but I really don't know how else they could have possibly ended it, given everything they had done leading up to it.
Given the themes they were working on, like, there is the more, like, was it good themes and all that? I mean, I'm not sure. They definitely went with the sentient AI angle, and they were stuck in that box once that box, or Panera and Dora's box, is running around, that sentient AI is running around. But they made, in my opinion, the ending hinting at our implied existence is messing with the same technology. Again, that this is an eternal cycle in the BGS universe. For the BGS universe, it's a nice kind of continuing loop. It circles back on itself.
Yeah,
And will the next cycle stop what happened in the first cycle and the one cycle before the 13 colonies of Cobalt? Because Cobalt itself was implied to have the same thing.
the time for them to end it was it season 2 or season 3 where they decided to chuck the entire fleet in space running away concept and do a ham-fisted commentary on the Iraq War?
I thought that was like halfway through 3.
Okay. Yeah, that was the point where they should have.
They had a commentary on the Iraq War. Oh,
Yes,
no.
and that was the moment where everything went downhill for the show. So
Yeah, Fonzie
watch the
jumped ship.
first season, maybe watch the second. I can't remember if the second season was any good. I think it was.
Second season was pretty good. It was kind of like the hunting down the 13 colonies and
That's the one where they get the Pegasus, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was good.
It's very much like the original series because there's so much of the original series that they allude to. We're talking illusion again. I mean, they're either bringing back or alluding to a lot of the stuff from the 77 series. 77, 78.
The original Earth and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I can see how that. I didn't see it because I saw it, like I said, the binge model, and I think surprisingly it's a better binge show than most Netflix designed binge shows. It's amazing some of the old shows work better binging than on binge shows.
Yeah.
Bradford brings up the fact that Babylon 5 is still out there, so if you haven't seen Babylon 5, that's another show that, although it was designed for 5 seasons, the first 4 are the ones you want to watch. And then maybe the last episode of 5.
Yeah.
In my
Deep
mind.
Space Nine, similar show. Pretty
Yeah,
solid from what I've seen so far.
I've seen a couple episodes of Deep Space Nine. I'm very much enjoying it. Although, should I watch like the Next Generation or even the original Star Trek?
No.
Yes.
I'm a fan of the original series. I consider the original series.
Yeah.
The original series is good.
The
the
Next
original-
Generation the Next Generation didn't stay fresh in the can.
Nope.
Big
Yeah,
disagree.
I tried.
No, don't listen to them. Watch
I
Next
love the
Gen.
original
Don't watch Deep
series.
Space Nine.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yesterday's Enterprise is the only episode worth watching.
Oh, come on.
Um,
Reunification parts
Actually,
1 and
looping
2.
back to Battlestar Galactica real quick.
Okay.
There was one episode that I actually quite liked from season 4 or 5, but so you know how the Cylons have that resolution thing?
Yeah, that comes a strategic target and all the drama at the same time.
Yeah, there was one episode in the later seasons where they had disabled the Cylon mothership's regeneration thing, and there was an episode where they basically stopped with all of the commentary and went back to the original feel of the show, where it's just the pilots of the Galactica doing a cat and mouse hunt with a basically Cylon ace in an asteroid field.
Hey, keep going, I'll be right back.
Yes.
Yep.
That one was solid. That one was actually a good episode.
Yeah, what BGS, and I argue if you had the right half of a season budget and ability to re-edit a bunch of stuff and maybe some CGI deepfaking, if you could just recut everything, like how you take anime shows and make them into movies. And actually, after seeing a bunch of compilation movies like the Gundam compilations, I see how that works, and it works well. You really could just get the BGS of the new season and just focus it mostly on the pilots and the main good drama that there was with the lead pilot, not Apollo, I forget her name, but just that if you just played all that out, cut out all the stuff and just put it around the Starfire pilots and then some of the Cylon subterfuge, and then just and kept even the original ending, you would have been great. It was just because that's when it was running, when it was this space carrier battleship just running for its life, and then sometimes back punching or even jumping in the middle of a Cylon fleet going, hey, remember I'm a Battlestar? And then just starts punching everything around it.
Okay, I'm back.
When they weren't trying for social or, pun intended, God forbid, theological commentary, the show writers knew how to write a compelling drama about a warship and her crew.
Right.
And then they try to do, interpersonal character drama that isn't related to the fight. Or all of that other stuff, and it's just... they should have stuck with their strengths.
I think part of the problem was they had an all-star cast, and the cast needed to rotate in probably more than the action could sustain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say, Jens, here's something I have a question on that it just popped up. It's entirely different, so forgive me for jumping on a tangent, but I feel compelled to ask. Have you ever seen anyone have on their pizza, I'm afraid to ask this, avocado, carrots, tuna, and or corn?
You saw that in California,
Those
didn't you?
things don't exist.
No, I'm seeing a map right now of the continental U.S. where his favorite pizza toppings by state.
Wait. No.
That's a joke
And
map.
Minnesota, it's...
That's
okay.
Oh.
Oh.
No one eats pizza with avocado.
Oh. Oh, I was so scared.
Well, if
Or
this-
corn.
And if this is one of those Google, they lay in what's in this state via Google, I'm sorry, it's BS.
Okay, because everything else was normal. Like every other state was coming up: sausage, pepperoni, mushrooms, black olives. Like the God's chosen toppings for pizza. But Minnesota had tuna, and Pennsylvania had corn.
No.
Well, remember,
No.
the internet is
No,
broken.
they don't.
The internet is dead. Just keep reminding
Yeah,
yourself
let
of
me
that.
stop now. No, they don't. Although,
Okay.
since we're on the subject of pizza toppings, etymology question. Does the term garbage pie mean anything to y'all?
Nope.
That sounds like a Jersey thing.
No, I've heard it before. At least what I know of it is it's the everything pizza. It's whatever you've got in the fridge, throw it on top.
Okay. Yeah, my mom's from the East Coast, and she used that phrase to refer to pizza whenever I use it. Not on the East Coast, people give me weird looks. It's just a supreme pizza, like
Yeah.
pepperoni, sausage, green peppers, olives.
Good call,
In fact,
Crusader
I think one of
Saracen.
the independent. I think one of the independent pizza shops when I was growing up in Minnesota had.
Story is occurring.
Oh yeah, it's
I
gonna get
think
real
pizza,
here.
and they were-
Yeah, this is gonna get
So
nuts.
how do y'all prefer your pizza?
After the story.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit.
Uh-oh. You've seen the real big bad behind the big bad.
Oh, this is several big bads down the line, actually. Like, I think we're still in chapter 2 of, like, 5. But I think we're about to get to 3.
What?
Oh, yeah. No, this is where this starts just getting insane.
The word Byzantine wasn't invented before. It came in now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were like War of the Roses before. But no, now we're getting like blue versus green. Now we're getting we're getting Borgia level here. You'll see.
We're getting into sports fandoms.
When you've been at war, you've always been at war.
War never changes.
People die when they're killed.
Oh, okay. Here's the diabolical offer.
Is this a translation thing?
Yeah.
Wanting to get the best of your brother's sales?
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, the translation in this version is notoriously bad, which is why I love it.
It becomes iconic because it's bad.
Yeah, just like 4. I mean, there's a reason FF4 was the previous one I played. Ooh,
How's it been going?
good. We're at a tense
Yes, yeah.
moment. We're on the cusp of something here.
I mean, yeah, honestly, I'm kind of with Draclau here. I don't want to change the world isn't really the right tack when your actions are changing the world.
Like you've been basically doing a one-man crusade to get my sister back.
Oh, and he's got his
but
own!
You are going to decide on it. Like, when you are going to decide who sits on the throne of an entire country, you're changing the world whether you like it or not.
Yep.
Now, by technical
And
definition,
He
Oh,
turned
boy.
fat.
tainted king. Oh, how grandiose of him.
Huh. Yeah, translation really could have used a once over on this.
Hey, suffering death cries is a great line.
Suffering death cries is what happens when you literally translate something from kanji into English.
It's so good.
Fun
It's like
fact.
when you kill people, they die.
Yeah. Deep lore here. So the
Okay.
Lucavi from
Can I
this...
just
Yeah, go ahead.
can I just say real quick about the sprites? Like, that is some solid animation right there. I can actually see his individual folds wobbling. Like, ooh, really good level of detail on that.
2D wobble physics were at their peak here.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, I
solid
can't-
animation.
I can't
Hey, I'll
look
pop
away
the
now.
nuggle.
It's like a lava lamp.
Right, now that I've pointed it out. It's hypnotic.
So as I was going to say, the Lucavi in this game are the same as the Espers from Final Fantasy XII. The summon monsters.
So is there an explanation on this whole tainted king business, or is that just there?
Yeah, you may have missed the episode where, like, I went through the, like, the history of that, but, okay, so, like, hundreds of years before this story was set, there was a king who wanted to unite the whole continent, and so he put together these 12 holy stones, okay, that when brought together could supposedly, like, summon demons. And he did, and made a Faustine deal with them, but then 12 holy warriors called the Zodiac Braves got together, and they defeated the 12 demons called the Lucavi, each of which is associated with a zodiac sign, and scattered the stones, and those are the stones that everybody's after. And
Okay.
we have one, and then Dracula had one that he used to transform into that.
Okay. I was here for the part about the Zodiac Braves. I think I missed the bit about the stones.
No problem.
Alright. And in chat, hail Papa Nurgle. From your wounds the fester pours.
This guy isn't as nice.
Alright, now that I'm hungry,
Nurgle.
you're talking about pizza.
There was a an instrumental band I discovered recently via the Turnip Discord, actually, and they had the most nurgly song title of all, which was "Suppurating Majesty."
That's pretty cool.
Everything on the album is equally coolly named.
Consider me interested.
Alright,
Let
you
me
want to
find the
poke it
link.
with a stick? You dare me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'd be concerned about that, about whoever touched it doing that John Carpenter's The Thing thing.
Yeah.
You know, where you try to touch it and a mouth opens up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, the money here, the real wins, the cash flow.
Got those games.
Speaking of the thing, has anyone here seen the movie Harbinger Down?
Alright, hang on, more story.
Never heard of it.
Negative.
Okay, you might be interested in it.
Okay, so there's Goltana. He's one of the two contenders for the Regency.
Hmm.
Oh, and so Delita is taking credit for rescuing the princess.
What a jerk.
Oh, you don't know the half of it.
That doesn't sound good. That just doesn't sound good at all.
If only they would have saved Tata.
Yeah. None of this would have been necessary. And so now he's like, because Delita's a commoner, but he's now claiming to be a knight who was part of an order that was conveniently all wiped out. So I think he's claiming to be like the last survivor, and there's no one to call him on it.
if you're going to claim to be part, pick one that can't dispute.
Yep.
And that you maybe help clean out.
Found it. The first track is called Waylaid Pilgrims Succumb to Hunger.
Nice. Oh, so Orlando there? That is the character based on El Cid.
Ooh.
Yeah, spoiler alert, but we get him later. We get him in the party.
Nice.
Oh, yeah,
When you
dude.
say LC, you mean the Spaniard?
Yep.
Oh,
The
wow.
Spaniard.
Oh, man, and they're blaming it on this
LC
guy.
is Spanish for the Cid.
Nice. But look, they're blaming the kidnapping on this little squire.
Man, I just brought the pizza.
You are now involved with high crimes against the Empire.
Maybe he brought deep dish and they didn't like it.
Oh, look at him lead that witness. So Larg is Goltama's rival.
Ooh. Also, they misspelled AIDS.
Yes, they did. I'm glad someone noticed.
Red penning is what I do.
What do you think? You think he's going to keep his promise?
No.
No, this is freaking Princes of Renaissance level of we will stab each other.
Uh-oh!
Accusations flying fast and thick.
Who seduced you, the Queen? Oh boy.
You know, you've got to admire the audacity of Delita. He just showed up 15 seconds ago and he's already accusing a minister of high treason.
That's how he
He's been
rolls.
watching a man for all seasons.
He's all things to all men.
Established dominance right off the bat.
Keeps him on the
Draw
back foot the whole
sword.
time.
Draw sword.
Dead
Okay,
man, tell
and
him
we
what-
move from the accusation to the killing in 5 seconds.
Oh,
See?
oh my. Wasn't even negotiations.
Yeah, that was a nice misdirection there, too.
They
'Cause-
were short.
Yeah, they had you thinking he was going to kill the squire. Nope, it's the minister.
Yeah. Wow.
Now blaming you might be held responsible after I just killed someone here.
And
Okay,
now...
Ed, he just took charge of the entire thing.
Yep. And he's suggesting
Let's-
proposing the
let-
current king and queen.
Okay.
Or
And
Rich
putting
side.
well, and putting the princess we know that is literally not legitimate heir on the throne to
Yep.
make a whole new lineage. Oh boy.
Yep.
You know, yeah. In the course of 5 minutes, you go from no one to running the entire thing.
That's because you killed someone who talked too much. Good job.
Yeah. And of course it started a war.
Of course.
As
Oh,
one
I
of
love
them
it.
do.
Wasn't that the plan?
Yep.
I think I see what's going on here.
Hmm.
Not saying anything here.
This is the beginning! So everything we've done so far, prologue. Yep.
Ah, this is the era of, well, we figured
Didn't
out...
we just kill an archbishop or something?
We killed,
Cardinal.
like, big lawyer someone, and then a cardinal, and then this guy killed a mister on the side that we didn't even know.
You know, I'm gonna save up here.
It's a heck of a story when assassinating Richelieu is the prologue.
I'm saying, like, it only gets nuttier from here. So, I'm gonna call the gaming there and take a look at chat. So let's see, what did I miss? What did I miss? Oh, well, I'm glad it was nothing serious. Hope you had a nice talk with your friends. Uphill Bob and Nurgle, we covered that. It's like Chan is chatting it up with Bradford and Crusader Saracen. And that's right, Chan. Square Enix does not have the gonads to write a character like Delita these days. Although, according to Bradford, the FF14 team might. I don't know, I haven't played Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah. Really couldn't speak to that. It kind of stopped with MMOs after World of War.
Yep.
They have not aged well, in my opinion, gameplay-wise.
And on that
As
note,
much
I'm
as
going to
I
call
like
it here.
this-
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks to chat. Thanks to everybody watching at home. Thanks to my panel. Remember that
Mhm.
we stream or try to stream Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And I think we're going to try to make 8 Central, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, the regular time. But you can be notified of when new retrospectives are and when the new main Geek Gab show with Daddy Warping and Dornall is by subscribing, then clicking the bell icon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to mash that like button. For Geek Gab Retrospective, I've been your host, Brian, and my panel tonight has been
Ferdinand Studios?
Catholic Lancer.
Crusader Saracen.
Emperor.
And Martel.
And remember,